Welcome to Helpful Hints with Super Sun Electric. It's Gabe and Jesse. We're going to give you some helpful hints.
That was much better. We're talking today about common code violations in Round Rock, Texas, or anywhere else. But specifically Round Rock, Texas.
Because these are the ones that we see servicing Round Rock, Texas.
The first one being the lack of weather-resistant devices. Here you see it is upside down.
Nope, yeah, I read it the first time.
Crap. Weather-resistant. WR. If your outside devices do not have a WR on it, you are messing up. What are the problems of having an outside a device that's outside that's not meant to be outside?
So, without a weather-rated device outside, you don't have the sun-resistant plastic and the stainless steel screws that come with weather-resistant devices. So, the device that you have outside, if it doesn't say weather-resistant, is rated to be inside. It corrodes too quickly and causes your system to have faults. I just had a call a few days ago that they had a receptacle on the front porch that wasn't working for 5 or 6 years because their back porch receptacle was so corroded that the electricity couldn't make it through.
No bueno. Second code violation that we see often in Round Rock, Texas, is the lack of AFCI breakers. They don't care about learning about the bubble cover.
These are also important. You're required to have them. Yeah, you need the in-use cover in any environment that can get wet. The only place that you don't need it is inside of like an awning or something else like that rain can't directly hit, because then it's a damp location versus a wet location.
You need this too.
So we'll put up the definitions from the code for damp versus wet locations.
The second thing that we see often as a code violation in Round Rock, Texas is the lack of AFCI protection in your breakers. AFCI stands for Arc Fault Circuit Interrupter.
Good job.
Similar, thank you, to your GFCIs, except heavier duty, yeah?
Nope.
No.
So you can see where it says CAFC, it's Combination Arc Fault Circuit Interrupter. That's what this breaker does. So it's similar to the GFCI, except it does different things. So GFCIs are looking for an imbalance from hot to neutral. So basically you have 10 amps coming in, 10 amps going back. As long as that's good, everything's fine. When you have more than 0.5 milliamps in difference, so you have 10 amps here and 9.5 amps here, it trips the GFCI because it knows that there's a fault and you're most likely getting shocked. So it doesn't want you to get shocked, it trips the breaker. AFCIs don't care if you get shocked. They don't want current to be jumping. So if there's any spot that there's an arc that needs to be happening, hence the name AFCI. And this one's specifically a plug-on neutral. So this part right here plugs onto your neutral. This part plugs onto the bus bar, gives you electricity, all that fun stuff. But we'll get into that in a different episode. But what AFCI is looking for is a peak in current. So that's the actual voltage coming through. So amperage is how much draw you have. Current is how many volts. So the most common system in Round Rock is 120, 240. So 120 volts on a single phase. So this is making sure that we have 120 volts continuous. If at any point that spikes because it had to jump across a broken wire, it trips the breaker. If there's a loose connection, trips the breaker. You ran a screw through your wire, trips the breaker. Also, if it detects that you're hot and neutral, hot and ground, neutral and ground are touching, it trips the breaker. So that's the combination. It's either in series, so it's one wire across itself, or in parallel, where you have two wires and the electricity jumps between them. And we'll show a better diagram, probably.
The third common code violation that we see in Round Rock, Texas is the lack of whole home surge protection. Here's my digital thing.
Do you want to expand on what surge protection does?
Surge protection protects your stuff in the case of a surge.
Okay, so she's not wrong. So surge protection really expanding on that. What surge protection does is breaking it down to easily consumable things. It builds a shield around your house to prevent any sort of spike in electricity from coming in. So that spikes for the amperage, not voltage, but amperage coming in. So it's the actual current. Yeah, the current. So basically, as your utility company turns on power at your neighbor's house down the road, that sends a spike through the system,
through the grid.
and that would impact your utility or your quality of power. If you don't have whole home surge protection and good grounding, it impacts the quality of power.
Similar to how when we had that transformer blow up out there, that our devices were all protected because of our surge protection. Had we not had that, our TV would have pooped out, our fancy washer and dryer, our smart fridge, and all our smart devices would have.
Exactly. Yeah, and so all of that stuff goes bad because of that excessive amount of electricity coming in. And so having that nice surge protector around there prevents that. I always recommend having it not only at your main panel, which is all code requires, but also at any point outside. So if you have a pool panel, put one in there. If you have HVAC outside, I'd recommend having one on each one of your disconnects before it goes to the unit. Have it in your sub panel as well. And that way, if anything comes in, it's protected. So the easiest way that you can see a surge happening in your house is if your lights dim. Right, so I'm sure that most of us have been in an older house in the 40s, 1950s, all the way up to 1970s houses where like the AC kicks on and all the lights dim down really bad and then they go back up to bright. That's a surge happening on your system because the HVAC had to pull too much power, and so it caused the amperage to raise to make it allowable. Fun theory stuff that we can get into later.
And those are the 3 most common code violations that we see in Round Rock, Texas.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks.